Hello, and welcome to Arcadian. One of the series of videos that has enjoyed the most success in this channel is the how to roleplay your ancestry better. And there's a lot to say about roleplaying ancestries better. They often have a lot of lore you can lean on, lots of interesting subjects that you can explore, and you play a character until you die, so there's plenty of opportunities to use all of that. But what if I told you there's a lot you can add to your game as well if you roleplay better your monsters? Roleplaying isn't limited to the players, and is not restricted to talking in funny voices either. Every time you introduce minor behaviors motivated by, let's say, biological reasons or a certain evolutionary strategy, even when roleplaying a non-humanoid character and even in battle, you can still instill a deeper sense of immersion in your games, and sometimes even improve your battles. That's why, ladies, gentlemen, and others, today we are beginning a new series in this channel, Roleplay Your Monster Better. In here, we will not only discuss monster lore, but also how we can use it to roleplay monsters into more believable living beings, and also tactics to make your battles more interesting, more thematic, and probably more dangerous. And we will begin with one of my favorite monsters in the book, the Roper. The Roper is a monster with a challenge rating of 5, meaning it will be an adequate medium difficulty encounter for a party of 4 level 5 heroes. This means that they are too deadly for early level heroes, but not that they can't be dangerous to higher level heroes. They are ambush predators that evolved in the Underdark to have an almost perfect camouflage. When standing still, they are indistinguishable from normal rock formations. That's why they normally patiently wait for their prey to come within 50 feet of them before striking with their 6 tendrils that jut out of their bodies, grapple the prey, and reel them towards a deadly bite. These tendrils have a property that saps strength from the ones they are grappling. Any creature grappled by them has disadvantage in strength checks and saving throws. However, they also have the ability to restrain targets, meaning that the targets can't move and have less chances of evading the Roper's attacks. Another amazing property of these tendrils is that they can attack targets up to 50 feet away from them. That's huge. Most players will consider themselves to be safe if they are more than 30 feet away from their enemies. Little do they know. Due to all of this, it's very unlikely that your players will find a Roper out in the open, waiting for them as they enter in its chamber of the dungeon. More likely, it will be hiding in plain sight, posing as a stalagmite, but even more likely as a stalactite. Since they can climb difficult surfaces, it's much more optimal for them as ambush predators to stay in the ceiling, out of reach of most melee weapons. That way, they can shoot their tendrils down to grapple and hold in place all the major threats, while picking up the weakest link in every party, one by one, into their nightmare-inducing mouths. So, considering all of this, if you wanted to play a Roper using the most optimal strategy, and the one which life would likely have perfected over centuries of evolution, here's how I'd do it. First, the Roper would likely select a chamber 20 to 30 feet high, because that would be the most optimal distance for it to strike with its tendrils. The Roper would stay in the ceiling, in their camouflaged form, and wait until the party of heroes was between 50 and 35 feet of its tentacles. This is because a distance over 50 feet would place the adventurers beyond the reach of their tendrils. However, allowing the adventurers to get too close would increase the risk of the Roper being hit by some ranged weapons like daggers. Each turn, the Roper can make 4 attacks with its tendrils, use reel once, which pulls a grapple target by 25 feet towards the Roper, and deliver 1 bite attack, which is quite strong at an average 22 points of damage. This means that the Roper would only be able to immobilize a maximum of 4 party elements in the first turn. However, since it has 6 tentacles, it could try to grapple an additional 2 in the second turn, plus re-grappling any that escaped the first attempt. The tendrils can be damaged, but that damage does not carry over to the Roper, so the adventurers may try to tear them apart for the sake of escaping, but that's actually not the best strategy if they want to deal damage, because they will just be basically wasting turns. But they will take a few rounds before realizing that, so that's when the Roper must make full advantage of its aerial advantage and finish off adventurers one by one. To do this, the Roper should only reel one of the party members while all the other ones are being held in place by the tentacles, and then deliver bite attacks until they are out of HP, and only then start reeling another one. If you wanted your Roper to be particularly deadly, you could make the Roper target spellcasters or ranged attackers first, as those are the ones who pose the greatest threat to it. However, since it has an intelligence of 7, I find it unlikely it would make that distinction. Some DMs point out that the ropers would be able to identify at least the difference between armored and unarmored enemies. If you think your roper should be able to do that, then it would make sense to target unarmored threats first, because those are the ones more likely to hurt the roper at a distance. However, the monster manual says that their digestive juices are very powerful and can digest anything it eats, including metal. So I doubt they pay too much attention to what they eat as long as it moves. So, because of the tendrils' restraining properties, while the roper is reeling and eating one of the characters, all the other ones should be held in place restrained, which means that only ranged attacks are likely to make any damage. If any character managed to escape the grapple and try to move closer to the roper, the next turn the roper just needs to regrow a tendril, then grapple that character again and slowly move away so it builds distance once more. I'm sure this will frustrate some players, but at the same time, it's also a different battle dynamic, which can prompt more creative and strategic thinking aside from the usual hack and slash, and one that will also allow different party members to shine. I think it's this kind of thought-provoking situations that at the same time stimulate different characters sharing the spotlight that really makes D&D come alive. By the way, if you're liking this video, let me know by hitting the like button below. You probably already know this, but doing so will let YouTube know that people enjoy this video, so it will recommend it to even more people. That's how the view count goes up and gives me the motivation to keep doing this. If you did like the video, I'd just like to leave my heartfelt thanks for your support. Now, it's worth thinking about what happens if the battle goes south for the roper. They move extremely slow, so while you could slowly walk away while keeping enemies at a distance with its stretched tentacles, I think the roper would be the kind of monster that fights until death. For starters, as I mentioned a while ago, the roper is only likely to be harmed by ranged attackers, which means that ropers who face parties with ranged attackers are likely to die, and the ones who only ever met melee attackers are likely to live. I think this has the potential to make the ones who survive cocky and disregard the possibility of defeat. Also, their low speed discourages getting away, as characters who manage to break away from their grapple would be able to mount pursuit very easily. But finally, ambush predators usually devour any food they can get their hands on, as there's no guarantee of a steady influx of food. So I think ropers would be more likely to attempt to devour the whole party and then relocate to a safer place to calmly digest their meal. There are two final notes I'd like to make about the roper. The first is that it is said in the monster manual that their digestive fluids are very valuable as alchemic ingredients for their solvent properties. Their tendrils also present very unique characteristics, boasting these hair-like growths that can penetrate flesh and sap strength. Consider allowing your players to harvest some of these to sell for high prices, make potions, or even craft magic items with strength-draining properties. The second is that the roper is actually the second stage of another monster present in the monster manual. I'm talking about the piercer. They are stalactite-like larvae that cling to the ceilings and drop from above to kill unsuspecting targets below. Even though the piercer's challenge rating is only 1/2, they are actually very deadly, since one hit of their deadly drop can deal an average 21 damage. The only reason their CR is so low is because if this attack fails, they have such low speeds that they can't effectively escape from the characters and are likely to be killed very easily. However, don't underestimate their ability to kill outright player characters by dealing over 2 times their maximum HP, especially to spellcasters in early levels. I think piercers are most effectively used in tandem with ropers at higher levels. If you want to feature a roper in a battle for higher level characters, consider having a lot of piercers in the ceiling ready to attack. Their drops will function as a kind of a legendary action for the roper, allowing additional attacks per turn, but posing no threat beyond that, since they won't climb up to the ceiling again and drop again quick enough. They are basically traps that can only be activated once. If you want to spice up the damage, particularly clever piercers would actually move towards the spot where the roper is restraining characters instead of patiently waiting for enemies to place themselves directly below them. And that's all I have on the roper. Please let me know in the comments down below in the Underdark if you like this new type of video and whether or not you'd like me to dedicate more time to monster lore or the battle tactics or something else I didn't remember. And if you like this video, I have a lot more about improving your game experience through narrative and roleplay. Why not hear what I have to say about role-playing dwarves better and the hidden secret that curses their lineage and that not a lot of people knows about? The video is right here. Thank you for watching. I'm the first Arcadian, and you have your moments. Not many of them, but you do have them.